while you're trying to address the goals that you've set for the meeting. The next thing you'll want to do is kind of stick to the agenda, but be flexible with it, because it might be that once you start discussing the topic, you get on a roll and you find that the group's being very productive and they're coming up with a lot of good ideas, but the time has run out, so, or at least for that specific topic. So at that point, you might need to kind of poll the group to decide, do you want to continue discussing this topic with the understanding that we might not get to some of these other topics, or do you want to go ahead and table this discussion for now and come back to it in another meeting and continue on with some of the other ideas that need to be discussed. And then finally, the last thing you'll want to do, you'll want to do your evaluation and your wrap-up, which we will get to here in just a minute in a little more detail. But you'll want to end on time or a little early if at all possible. Just keeps people in their busy workday schedule. Evaluation. I bet you all wish you had those listed. Okay, so there are actually a couple of different techniques for gathering evaluation, and I'm sure you've all seen the little paper evaluations. But you can gather evaluation or feedback for the evaluation during the meeting, or you can do it afterwards. Has anyone ever been in a meeting where you think that they've kind of evaluated how things were going during the meeting?
I mean, just visually picking up on cues and people.
That could be one way. I'm not sure if you've ever, you may not even be aware that that's what they're doing when they do it, but it could be that the leader is kind of observing what's going on. You know, are they paying attention? Are they checking their email on their iPhone? Are they playing on the computers, you know? So you might visually do a scan to see if it looks like people seem to be involved and if they're interested and if it seems to be going well. You can take a verbal poll, which I've done a few times here, to just ask, you know, are there any questions? How do you feel it's going? Do you feel like we're staying on topic? Are we addressing the goals? So you might do a verbal poll and just kind of find out, you know, how people think the meeting's going. Another way is to do a effectiveness rating, that's the reason I put this picture in, because that's what it reminded me of. And an effectiveness rating is basically where you just take a brief pause in the meeting and go around and say, okay, let me just do a quick poll and see how people feel that things are going. On a scale of 1 to 5, how do you feel we're doing about staying on time or meeting, addressing our goals? And then you just go around the room and have everyone say 5, 5, 5, 1, you know, 3, to get a poll and see if people feel like it's going the way it's supposed to. And if not, what that will allow you to do is you can kind of adjust things during the meeting. And that allows you to kind of redirect or refocus to better meet the needs of the group while you're actually in the meeting, as opposed to finding out what needed to be fixed after the meeting. So that's one of the benefits of just, you know, maybe once or twice, depending on the length of your meeting, just kind of do a quick feeler. The end of the meeting evaluations are probably the ones you're the most familiar with. Those are the little feel-good sheets that you get at the end that ask you what you thought. You have one of those here today. You might also follow up. You can have the paper evaluations. You can also follow up verbally. You can email people, you know, send the group an email to ask what they thought of the meeting, if they felt like it met the group's needs. And I mean, you could even phone people. I mean, there's any number of ways that you can evaluate, you know, how things went. Have any of you guys had any interesting techniques that you've observed or seen or used that were helpful for that kind of thing?
I've never been asked.
Never?
I don't think so.
So I heard it's been more like along the lines of presentations rather than meetings.
Yeah, that's
what I've done at meetings.
I think people do tend, they don't think about evaluations for meetings. because they don't think about, well, was it efficient or not? They just think we met, we talked about it. And that's, you know,
It's
What is-
interesting, the numbers, the disparity of numbers up there. It's like, was that because perhaps they didn't present the goals clear enough? You know, I mean, you have all this, you know, objectivity with all these subjectivity with the participants, you know? Did they meet their, you know, what were their impressions of the goals? What were their impressions of the purpose of the meeting? Did it really meet what they thought? Or did we convey that clear enough to say, we really meant what we were here to do?
right.
Instead of rambling on about things, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah, so people's interpretations can definitely be different, and as far as what the goals were, and also how they understood the information, which is one of the benefits of setting some ground rules and asking people to basically explain their reasoning when they're discussing things. Because it may be that you have a great idea and you say, oh, I think we should, you know, give everyone 5% raises. And, you know, people assume, oh yeah, that's a great idea, more money. But you may have a completely different reason for, you know, it may not just simply be a matter of, I think everyone deserves a 5% raise. You may actually have a good reason that's outside of that you want to do that. And Jason may not know. And if he's your boss, he'll give you a 5% raise. So, you know, so it's good. Okay, we're almost finished with the discussion part of it. The last thing that you would need to do to help make your meeting efficient is to do the wrap-up. And basically what this does is it just kind of summarizes what was discussed so that kind of clarifies for people this is what we accomplished today. You'll want to kind of go over any outstanding actions or assignments that need to be done before the next meeting if your group's going to be meeting again, and make sure everyone is clear on what their goals are with completing those assignments, what the deadlines are to complete them, and then go ahead and establish your next meeting time. That way people can plan for it, you know, while the group is together. Are there any questions about that part of it, or anything that we've talked about so far? It's fairly straightforward for the most part, but some of it are concepts that people don't think about, or they think of them as presentation techniques instead of meeting techniques. But a lot of those same techniques that are used in presentations are also used in meetings to make them efficient. Okay. All right, well, that is it for the actual presentation part. What I'm going to have you guys do now, we're going to do a small group activity. And so I'm going to have you guys break out into groups. And that is actually the group activities on the green sheet that you have. And what I'm going to have you do, the first part of that is a scenario where you have to look at, thanks Jason, you have to basically look at these potential agenda items for your group and decide which of those topics you think would be relevant to discuss in the meeting, how you might go about approaching that or gathering the information for it, and why you chose to do it that way. And you'll decide that as a group. And then the second part of that, if you have time, because you're going to have 10 minutes to do this, the second part of that is a little role-playing activity, and there are actually 3 people, or 10 people on there. One of them is the leader, who's going to be trying to facilitate the group. The other one is, I believe his name is John, and he's going to try to distract the group, not on purpose. It's just because he has lots of great ideas and gets real excited. And the other person is someone else, just a member of the group who, you know, is a good worker, you know, likes to contribute, but she's easily distracted. So she gets into the side conversation with John, and then the leader has to redirect. So I'm going to give you guys 10 minutes to go ahead and complete that, and then we'll come back together and you guys can share your results with everyone. Okay? And just let me know if you have questions.